It is the On Friar podcast. And Derek, we all have our own ways of coping with disappointment. And I think
Yep.
AJ Preller showed his method for coping with disappointment. And that's to sign an 18-year-old from Taiwan.
I mean, why not? Always looking forward, right? Yeah, that's
Oh,
that's gonna be the difference maker. I mean, obviously.
he's a little bummed out, needed something to make him feel alive and get him going again. And did that did that today. So
Another relief pitcher, by the way. So he's really leaning into this bullpenning thing.
which he's done that a couple times before, 2021 in the past. And the what's the line? Building on a strength hasn't always gone well for AJ Preller and the Padres, unfortunately. But maybe this is the time. We will see.
Yeah, building on a strength is great, unless you were also neglecting weaknesses.
I'm sure all these will come up. We'll discuss some of the weaknesses. Even John Seidler in his letter to the fans fessed up that there were some weaknesses that need to be shored up that showed themselves during the wild card series. Derek was there at Wrigley, so anxious to just kind of get your vantage point. How have things played out from your vantage point? Disappointing series that wrapped up exactly 1 week ago. Feels like it's been a long week since we were talking about Padres
That was
baseball.
only a week ago.
Yeah. It's felt like months.
Oh, yeah. It's been a long one.
Exactly 1 week today. Where would they have been in the game at this point? It's all kind of a blur. So yes,
a 2:08 start here. So see in an hour or so. Yeah,
an hour in, about midway through.
So yeah, let me see.
Fernando probably just struck out.
Well, duh. I mean, you can say that pretty much any time during the series or any moment. That would have been. Oh, you know what? Estrada probably had just gotten out of the second inning.
Oh, there you go. That's right.
After you blew up because he should not have been starting that game in the first. Let's get into all of this. I have thoughts, Darnay. I have many thoughts. As by the way, as I sit in photojournalist Nate Goki's car here, as we're sitting in Front Wave Arena, ready to go in and watch the Clippers and the Gongju Loon Lions play an exhibition game. Talk to Kobe Sanders and Tyronn Lue today. So yeah, we got basketball on the mind, but we had to do the podcast because I still have things that have been percolating in the back of my head, and I'm still ticked off at Mike Schultz.
Okay, so we will get to that. First things first, thanks to OG's, the sponsor of the On Fire podcast. Appreciate all they do for us. If you need a place to catch postseason baseball, maybe college football Saturdays, NFL Sundays, NBA coming up here in a couple of weeks, OG's is a great place to do it. A bunch of locations.
Hockey season's back.
County. Hockey season's back. The Ducks openers tomorrow, I believe.
Yeah, and the two-time defending champ Panthers are 1-0 already.
There you go. So whatever your sport of choice is, chances are it's on one of the many TVs at OG's, as well as a great menu, great beer list. So hit up OG's. And again, thanks to OG's for all they do for On Fire and the NBC7 sports team. Without further ado, the walk-up music. It is the On Fire podcast brought to you by NBC7. He is Derek Togerson. I am Darnay Tripp, joining you, as we mentioned, a week after the Padres season comes to a close. And Derek, it sounds like you've got some things on your mind, like you said, percolating over the course of the last week since the season ended. You were at Wrigley Field. You were in all the media scrums in the clubhouse after every game, before every game, every opportunity you could, and you were there firsthand. What has been, I guess, kind of the main feeling or thought that has kind of been bouncing around your head since things ended the way they did a week ago?
This team needs more slug. That's something we knew that. I'm now seriously questioning whether Mike Schultz is a postseason manager, and I know this is still emotion talking, but the way that he handled managing Game 3, I'm having trouble reconciling that in my head because there were so many just irresponsibly bad decisions. And I think he's gone over the line of from loyalty, and it's great to be loyal to your players, right? Consistency and doing things the way you've always done them and not straying from your course is awesome for a 162 game regular season. And that's why every time he's a manager, he wins at least 90 games. It's just a take it off. You're good. Go with it. You need to have some sense of urgency when in a best of 3 game series, especially when things are not going your way. You got to try something new. One, why do you continue to put 3 left-handed hitters in a row in the back of that lineup when you know the Cubs' strength out of the bullpen is their left-handers? How many times did we see that played directly into Craig Counsell's hands when you got O'Hearn, Sheets, Cronenworth coming up and go to the lefty, grab a lefty out of the bullpen, and those guys, it's harder for left-handed hitters to hit left-handed pitching. Just don't see it all that often. That's just a fact of baseball. It's a fact of life. Why was Jose Iglesias, who took 2 really good swings and got robbed by Nico Horner on one of them, why was he not in there in game 3 to break that up when Jake Cronenworth is giving you absolutely nothing offensively? It breaks up that thing on the right hand. Plus, it's not a drop-off defensively. Iglesias should have been in that starting lineup playing second base. Jake should not have been starting. You should not have had Yu Darvish on the mound in that game. All right. I love Yu Darvish. I love Yu Darvish with a passion. He's not at the level that he used to be. He's getting by on moxie and guile now. His stuff is not the same. He should not have been starting that game. Michael King should have been starting that game. Speaking of Michael King, I'm glad you brought him up. He's a guy who's a starter who's used to going multiple innings. So he gets 1 inning. Robert Suarez is a closer used to going 1 inning. So he gets multiple innings. If you're going to go to Adrian Morejon anyway, why not go to him to start the inning with Kyle Tucker at the plate instead of letting Suarez give up a home run that then basically was the difference in the game because the Padres mounted a rally in the 9th. They needed 2 runs. They needed 3 runs and then Merrill homers. Now you need 2 runs instead of 1. That changes the way that you strategize for the final inning. Every decision that Schulte made, it's not that it didn't work. Like you can't even see like the logic is sound and it just doesn't work. The logic wasn't sound. It was just dumb. I keep replaying this game in my head over and over and over again. Going, how? Why do you do this? And all I can come up with is it's just blind loyalty to guys who have done it before. And that's got to freaking stop because that is not the way you win championships. Okay, after I say all that nonsense, what say you? Because I'm still a little bit ticked off by this.
No, I mean, it wasn't nonsense. You make an array of great points. Kind of touching on the last thing you mentioned, sort of the blind loyalty, I think, and I might have mentioned this to Todd in one of the episodes, and I've thought about it a lot. The way this series played out was so incredibly predictable. They go on the road, they lose in 3 games to a playoff team and don't score any runs. That's exactly what they did all season long against playoff caliber teams. It's no different. And so I don't want to hear the winners bang solutions mantra or winners. I don't want to hear you banging the drum of the winners find solutions mantra when you never found a solution of like the one issue that was always going to hold you back. Now, we can say all these things, and if Ramon Laureano is healthy, they might win that series because there's your righty.
Oh, they probably do win that series. Yeah.
They probably win that series. And so AJ Preller did provide a solution in Laureano, who had a fantastic season and was Padres' best offensive player after the deadline. That guy was injured. It's still a winnable series. And the whole winners find solutions thing, like, you didn't try anything. And I think that's what frustrates me is, and there were various points where O'Hearn had like a multi-hit game, hitting second behind Tatis when Arise was down for a game. You had that one Sunday where Tatis had like 3 hits, Merrill had 2. They both drove in runs. They were awesome. And Mike Schilt went on like a 3-minute soliloquy about these are 2 of the best talents in baseball because they do everything. And I'm thinking after that, okay, is he setting us up for a change in the lineup? And the change never came. And so if they lose in 3 games, they lose 3 games. But I would have much rather seen them lose in 3 games, trying something new. And I remember talking to AJ Cassavell about this in late August, and he said, if you remember last year, everybody's clamoring for them to move Merrill up in the lineup. They didn't do it until like mid-September. And AJ's point being, I wouldn't be surprised if Schilt waited till around that point before he switched things up, and then you start to see the October lineup the last couple weeks of the season. And it never happened. And things got mixed up a little bit because guys got rest days and this and that. But he just kept trotting out there. Tatis number one, Arise number two, the three lefties, instead of trying something like bold and creative to inject some life in a lineup that was always going to go to Wrigley Field and struggle, because that's what they did the entire season. 1-9 in series against playoff caliber teams. And if you look at those series, there's a lot of series where they scored 6 runs over 3 games, 7 runs over 3 games. They go and score 5 runs over 3 games. You could have seen this coming from a mile away. And I don't want to hear that winners find solutions when your biggest issue is staring at you the entire season, and you had 6 months to find a solution, and you never so much as tried to pursue a solution.
Well, they scored 5 runs. How many did they allow in this series, Darnay?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
6. They allowed 6 runs and lost the series. Their pitching staff was more than good enough.
Oh, yeah.
More than good enough. And by the way, that was after Yu Darvish gave up 1 and left the game in the second inning with the bases loaded and nobody out. Right? That is a recipe for disaster. Jeremiah Estrada did as well as anybody could have possibly hoped by allowing just 1 more run in that inning. I mean, it's insane how this offense. I like what you're saying about winners finding solutions. Well, apparently Schilt feels like that only applies to the players and not to the manager, because the manager did absolutely nothing to try and tweak or find a solution to what you're talking about, which is the biggest problem for this lineup is, you can't hit the ball out of the ballpark often. You're not going to find that guy who ends it with 1 swing. You don't have, Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani, Kyle Schwarber. You don't have that guy in your lineup. So you have to find ways to extend innings, and you cannot extend innings with 3 consecutive left-handed hitters. This is not Johnson City, right? In A-ball, when you can line up 6 consecutive left-handed hitters and have success, which, by the way, is a story that Mike Schilt told before one of these games in the press conference. I was there. I was like, and we're all sitting there looking at each other like, is he trying to compare A-ball to the National League playoffs? This is, yeah, you can do that. You get 6 lefties in a row. That's a record. Fantastic. And you won down there. That's all. That it doesn't work that way here. Right?
Quickly. He said whatever his explanation was before game 2 when they're getting ready to face another lefty and Shota Imanaga. And he said something along the lines of, these guys have hit lefties their entire life and they're going to hit lefties again today. And what did he do in the 4th inning when Gavin Sheets was coming to the plate? He put in Jose Iglesias.
And that's another thing. And then he immediately takes Iglesias out, burns him, and puts Bryce Johnson in left field. Right? So Iglesias can play left. So now you're burning that guy. And then, by the way, a couple innings later, who comes up with 2 runners on and nobody out? It's Bryce Johnson. And a bat that should have gone to Jose Iglesias, who took some really good at-bats in that series. 2 very hard hit balls, one right at the center fielder, and one he got robbed by when Nico Horner turned into Michael freaking Jordan. I don't know. I don't know how Schilt doesn't see this. You don't just burn a guy. If you're trying to get that bat to see lefties more often, then why do you give him 1 at bat when they put him in for a position? He can play left field. He's done it before. I know Wrigley's not the easiest outfield in the world to play, but how many truly tough outs were there out there? There weren't that many. You're gambling on this. Well, I need my defensive replacement now. Well, you don't need him at that moment. It's the 4th freaking inning.
Yeah,
that's another one where we're sitting there talking in the press box like, okay, so you're going to put him in left or bring Bryce Johnson. You can't bring Bryce Johnson in now. You're going to burn another guy, and then that at-bat's going to go. Sure enough, 2 innings later, here it comes. And then Johnson, for some reason, takes 2 strikes and then squares to bunt with 2 strikes and takes that one. And it's strike 3. I'm like, it's the single most wasted at-bat I've ever seen aside from Fernando Tatis Jr. in this series. It was nuts.
You mentioned the Michael King situation. If you had to guess, if they had won game 3, who do you think their starter would have been Saturday for game 1 against the Brewers?
Well, that's what he was hoping it would have been, was
Michael
King,
King
but it would have been
basically treats it like
Darvish.
a bullpen.
You would just flip flop Darvish because you wouldn't have brought Ewan out of the bullpen.
Right, yeah.
So you would have had Darvish in there. Right? That's he was hoping to have Michael King be the game one starter, right?
Yeah.
Hope is not a strategy, especially not in
Well,
the playoffs. You can't get to game one if you don't win game 3.
yeah. Yeah, and you said it right there. I mean, he is very much managed for today. I think Mike Schill, generally speaking, manages to win today. And that seemed like he was maybe managing with an eye on like the best possible situation for Saturday. And but again, pitching wasn't, it's like you can nitpick about whatever their pitching plan was, but that was only an issue because in both losses, Tatis, Arise, Machado went a combined 0 for 11, and for the series, Jake Cronenworth went 0 for 11.
Yep. Yeah, which is that's your series right there. That's why I said Iglesias should have been in there. Jake was giving you nothing, and they weren't even. He had a couple of hard hit ground balls. One of them, I particularly Dansby Swanson. And by the way, Dansby Swanson, I don't know when he turned into Ozzie Smith, but God bless him for doing it because he was incredible at shortstop. Had one hard hit ball over 100 miles an hour that was right at Swanson. Aside from that, they weren't great at bats. It's like he's hitting rockets everywhere and just getting robbed by great defensive plays. It was pop up, it was strikeout, it was weak ground ball. He wasn't lighting it up and just like having bad luck. He wasn't even taking competitive at bats. Again, still not as bad as Tatis was. And Toddy, even after game 3, I said, could you just not see the ball or what? And he's like, yeah, you said it. I wasn't picking it up. It was just, I wasn't picking the ball up. So then you just swing at everything? And he's like, I just had a bad approach. I had a bad approach. And the bottom line is with him, he couldn't see the ball very well. So instead of just saying something and being like, listen, dude, give me a tip, give me something, because these shadows are killing me. He pouted and got in his own head and just walked up there and waved at 5 of the first 6 pitches he saw and couldn't hit anything. Yeah. It was he went back into his shell and then he's useless. It was.
I mean, I appreciated what he had to say after the fact, but again, it's after the fact. The damage was done at that point, and
I need Toddy out of his feels. Okay, screw your feelings. No one cares about your feelings. We care about base hits. All right. I love the man. I love the fact that he is open and honest and he can show emotion, and that's great. Yeah. Get out of your own damn head. Stop with the pouting. Go play ball. Getting inside your own. This is the worst game imaginable to be in your own head. All right. Yeah. The ball player mentality is what Jackson Merrill has. Is, oh, you got 2 by me. You ain't getting 1 more. Oh, you did. I'll see you again in 2 innings. It's always looking ahead. Always looking. Even when things are not going your way. Always like, I'm going to get you next time. And Toddy's like, oh, okie dokie. I can't see the ball. This sucks. There's no fight. There's no fight, and I hate that.
I think it goes back to a conversation we've had with, and I'm sure we brought it up through the course of this season in the past when he's struggled, where like maybe he doesn't quite understand what he means to the team and how everybody kind of feeds off him and his energy. And to his credit, at points when he struggled this year, when he gets on base, he's stealing, he's wreaking havoc, he's doing what he does in right field, and so he's making plays there. But to see him, like you said, just waving at pitches and just kind of saunter back to the dugout, like I don't know the best way to respond to a strikeout. I don't know if there's a way to have a strikeout and a more, obviously you want a more competitive at bat, but just the optics of it aren't somebody who is like elevating his team and lifting his team even when things are hard. And I think that's an area where he needs to grow, is like when things are hard and not going well, especially offensively. We know what you can do when you get on base. We know what you can do in right field. But just in terms of like when the lineup is scuffling and you're scuffling, like what can you do to be that guy that people are feeding off of, that can provide some sort of spark or lift for your team? Because when he gets down and like you said, he gets in his feels, it's just like, oh, here goes. Like nothing's going to come of this.
Darnay, it's been 6 years. What gives you the impression that anything's going to change?
I was thinking about this. Because Manny came here when he was 26. Fernando's 26 this year. And, if I'm going to be blindly naive and optimistic and try to answer your question with some shred of hope, I think we've seen now there's been certain situations Manny hasn't handled perfectly. But
I can think of a couple. Yeah.
He has shown we've talked about it, growth as a leader. Not perfect, but he has shown some growth as a leader.
Yeah, and then he rolled it all. He walked it all back in the last month of the season.
No.
Walked it all back. Man. It's just
so this actually brings up an interesting point. Kevin Acee did, kind of a deep dive, taking inventory of the season and what he's hearing. And one of the things that came up was excitement about Ramon Laureano coming back and looking at he and Jackson Merrill as guys that could set the tone for this team. And Jackson, I mean, you said it. Jackson has that. He doesn't say a whole lot, but yeah, and every so often he will say, he'll make his feelings known. But just the way he plays, the way he approaches the game, the way he deals with the highs and lows. Ramon Laureano, having a little bit of the quiet, what is going on up there? I don't want to say Tommy Pham, but there's a different connotation that comes to Tommy Pham, not that connotation, just like the I don't want to mess with that guy aspect of Ramon Laureano, the all business, I like it type of, vibe that he has. That might be a good thing for the team. And, Merrill from a leadership standpoint and how much does he take on, that came up a little bit after he signed the contract. And I remember asking Manny about that. He's like, all right, let's not put too much on the guy's shoulders. And after this year, I'm like, maybe we should put that on his shoulders because he seems to have that right kind of mentality. And it's just a matter of there are some big personalities and big names in that room. Is there the comfort level to kind of speak up and step into that role a little bit more? It might do the team some good if Merrill does that.
Laureano, by the way, if you heard anybody charge the mound because he thought he got wronged, he didn't give me a name, he'd be one of the first three guys I would pick from this team. It was Laureano, wasn't it? Yeah, because he's a dude who is just you're right. He's kind of got that quiet, the dude you don't want to mess with at a bar kind of vibe to him. Just there's something simmering underneath. He can be a dangerous man.
He's gonna nod to you and move on.
Yeah, if provoked, right? It's just kind of I see you. All right, because in a bar you want the guy who's like, come on, let's go, trying to talk you out of it. The last guy you want to mess with is the guy who goes outside now. Then you're like, oh, I've picked the fight with the wrong dude. I've made a horrible error in judgment, and my life may now be over. Laureano's that guy where he's like, let's go. And that's the guy you don't want to mess with. So he's got kind of that kind of simmering underneath the surface kind of vibe to him where he's going to do the things that you need to do it. Now, here's the other thing is he is not, it's hard for a dude who has been more or less a journeyman his entire career. And he's 31 years old now to come in and take that kind of a role.
Yeah.
He doesn't have the resume that Manny Machado has. He doesn't have the cachet. You look at some of the great leaders, go back to the Red Sox when they were winning those World Series with Jason Varitek, the catcher, who didn't necessarily have the numbers, but his toughness and his command of the pitching staff and the clubhouse was just the guy who everyone followed. So he had the personality, but not necessarily the numbers. Whereas a guy like, Manny has numbers and not necessarily the personality. So you need to have a guy who has at least a little bit of both and has been around for a lot of. Varitek was drafted by the Red Sox. He came up in the system. He was Boston to the core. So for a guy like Laureano to come in and fulfill that role is going to be more difficult because he just got here. Whereas Merrill, drafted by the club, grew up in the organization, has that same. He's got the ability, he's got the numbers, he's got the attitude, he's got the whole package. That's the guy who needs to come in and start really molding the clubhouse in his image, because that's the guy. Again, he is the consummate ball player mentality. Where if Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis Jr. with their talent played the game with the same intensity and attitude that Jackson Merrill played them with, they'd both hit 330 with 50 bombs every year.
Man. I just hate that we're having this conversation. I think, and it's every other year we have this conversation. And,
Yeah.
is it just like obviously if you're winning games, you're not talking about like a leadership void. I think there were points last year where you felt like really good about kind of the attitude, leadership around the club, that sort of thing. The good news is there were weaknesses from that standpoint. They still won 90 games and made it to the playoffs, but it ends up undercutting between a manager that was not willing to make the necessary adjustments and a team that just, the stars didn't show up when they needed to, undercut what this team was capable of. And there was the Laureano injury as well. I don't think anything that transpired this year was enough to necessitate any broad sweeping changes. As far as AJ Preller and Mike Schild are concerned, obviously, Preller, I think is a question because he's going to his last year of his contract. So it's like, okay, what do things look like in terms of an extension, his future going forward? Schild has 2 years ahead of him. And I think when you look at the managerial situation, even if you were like, I'm not so sure about this Mike Schild guy, there's also the part of me that's like, Manny and Tatis have been here for 7 years and have not had a manager for more than 2 years. And so I'm like, for the sake of continuity and the fact that Schild, whether you love him or not, he has instilled some sort of like attitude or identity for this team that is maybe missing a little bit. And so I think there's something to be said there. And so I'd feel inclined to just like make the necessary changes in the roster. You have a good core. You have pretty much your entire first base is the question. Really, that's it. You have a DH. You have everybody at first base. You have obviously rotation, what happens with Robert Suarez as well. But you're set up pretty well for 2026. I feel like, okay, let's keep everybody in place, make the necessary changes in the roster, address kind of leadership, that sort of thing, and hope that, we can see more of a 2024 version of this team than we did this past year.
Bruce Bochy's available.
That's true. He is.
I'm going to throw it out there. Bruce Bochy's available.
Should they do it, Derek? Should they do it, Derek?
Yes, they should. If he's interested, and I have heard whispers from people I trust that he would be interested. Still has a house here. Still has loves San Diego. Still loved by San Diego, because remember, it's not his fault that he left. He's the only person who has been involved in both Padres World Series teams. He's won 4 elsewhere. He is a mastermind. He is one of the few guys who I think you get a guy like Manny to play up to the potential that can play to, because Bodes don't take no crap from nobody. So I'm just saying, because here's the thing: if you're gonna move on from Schild, AJ is gonna get an extension. I'm not worried about that. Although I also have heard whispers that there are other guys who are already in house who also are on that kind of track, who might be interested in becoming general managers one day, who might be kind of being groomed for that job. Former Padres All-Stars. I will leave it at that. I think AJ will get an extension, or at least a little while. But if you're going to replace Mike Schild, who has been successful, and it's hard to justify replacing the guy who took you to the first back-to-back 90-win seasons in franchise history, you better have somebody really, 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 really good to replace him. And that's a very, very short list. And Bruce Bochy's at the top of it. So if the Phillies are dumb enough to fire Rob Thompson, look at the way that offense approaches things. I would look very seriously at that guy.
Well, there was a bunt. Everybody's talking about, and that I think hits too close to home for a lot of Padres fans.
Yeah, that's yeah. I asked Jack, by the way, after that bunt in game 1, I said, why?
Yeah.
And he's like, listen, we're trying to get a run home, right? I understand the situation. I'm looking up there as the playoffs. Like I'm playing winning baseball. I'm trying to get. I mean, Xander's got a single. Like, we got a run, and he did single. It just it was an infield single. Just didn't get through, through the infield. But I'm playing winning baseball, and I'm like, my God, I love the kid so much for saying that and having that much awareness. And yet I also wanted to scream at him, "You're hitting fourth.
Yeah.
You're the cleanup guy. You're a run producer. Stop doing that." That's it.
Well, and I think, that's part of the Schilt thing. It's like, and we discussed this a little bit last week, is, Schilt was quick to say, and Merrill was quick to say that this was my decision. But how much of that is what he's been hearing from Mike Schilt for 2 years now? But hey, if you're not comfortable, if you think you can move him along, hey, lay the bunt down, productive at bat, yada yada yada. And so while I don't blame Schilt for making that call, I do blame Schilt for telling this, young, probably impressionable, talented, wants to do the right thing ball player, hey, think about bunting. Might be a good idea here.
And it's not like you're doing it to set up Aaron Judge. I mean, Xander had a good series, but consistently, he's not the guy who's been producing runs. Jackson Merrill is.
Yeah.
So I don't. What they missed this year, Darnay, who can really set the tone for this kind of stuff, is Joe Musgrove. And I know Joe was around the team. I know Joe was around the team. Different than when you're on the field. Having him back next year is going to make a big difference.
I thought you were going to say Jerkson Profar. No, he wouldn't have been around during the postseason.
Juiced up Jerkson Profar, sure. Yeah, but
we should do a one of these weeks kind of a stay or go type of episode, because there's the Michael King situation, the Robert Suarez situation, there's Ryan O'Hearn, there is Luis Arraez, Dylan Cease. We can even get into kind of trade candidates and all that. I feel like you have to mention Luis Arraez with all of this, and without going too deep into it, given what you said off the top, what does this team need? They need slug. When you're figuring out how to fill that hole at first base, and all of a sudden you have a team that was like, where are the lefties? Especially before Juan Soto, like where he had Eric Hosmer, but like where are the lefties in this lineup, the productive lefty in this lineup? Had Jake Cronenworth. All of a sudden you have too many of them because of O'Hearn, because of Sheets, because of Cronenworth, because of Merrill, and because of Arraez. If you have a glut of lefties and you're lacking power, I don't see how you can keep Luis Arraez.
Agreed.
And it's not, it's no disrespect. Luis Arraez had a bad year. It is what it is. Mike Schilt stuck with him, gave him every opportunity. Sure, he had a bunch of 2-3 hit games, whatever. That's fun. But it's not even like shade to Luis Arraez. It's just like, this is where we are as a program. This is what we need. This is what you offer. These things are not meshing, and we appreciate you and all you've done, but we need a bopper over there on first base. And I know you're probably going to say the name Pete Alonso, and that'd be cool. But Luis Arraez, especially if it's Arraez versus O'Hearn, O'Hearn's probably going to come cheaper anyways. Maybe 4 years older, doesn't have the accolades as Luis Arraez. If I did choose between the two, and I think a lot of fans would say Ryan O'Hearn, regardless, you need a guy with some pop in that spot. Luis Arraez doesn't have that, and it just makes sense after this year to say thank you for all you've done. Wish you all the best in your endeavors. Go win another batting title this year, but it'll be with somebody else.
Unless he's willing to take a massive discount. I mean, unless he's able to say, what do you make, 14, 15 million this year? Unless he says, you know what? I know I underperformed. I'm good. Give me 10 million a year. Great. Come back. Fantastic. He's not going to do that. So short of that, then no, it's time to part ways.
See, I don't even know if I would do that, because Mike Schultz just going to end up hitting him second, and he's going to play first base 120 games. And it's just like, if he's here, we're going to be seeing a lot of him maybe more than we need to, and it's just he's not providing what the team needs. And so I get what you're saying.
So we got to save Schulte from himself, is what you're saying.
A little bit, yeah. And in an essence.
I can see that. Yeah. I can definitely see that. And there are, for $15 million a year, you can find other places to go. You know, I mean, Laureano's got a $6.5 million club option. That should have, I mean, you can't, but that's been picked up. He's staying. You're good. The one I'm wondering about is Michael King, because he's got a $15 million mutual option for next year. Now, mutual options in baseball are almost never exercised. One team will decline. Like, it's more like just say, hey, we're doing this on a crazy chance something happens. We'll throw it out there, yada, yada. Great. This is one where I could see, because he had so many injury issues. Maybe at $15 million for 1 year, maybe he says, all right, you know what? I'm going to do it one more time. I'll get my $15 million. I want to prove again that I can be a healthy starting pitcher over an entire 162. I can throw 170 innings again. I can throw 175. I can make 29 to 30 starts. That's who I am. Because if he does that for 1 more year, he's only going to be 32. He's still got plenty of time to sign a big contract somewhere else. So the question is that something he thinks would be up to what he's worth coming off the year he had? Is some other team going to say, I'm banking on the stuff, I'm banking on the potential, I'm going to give him a nice big fat contract? Do they decline it and then give him the qualifying offer, which would be, I haven't looked at it, 22, 23, somewhere in there for 1 year, and he accepts that? Nick Martinez just did that last year with the Reds. It worked out pretty well for him, for both sides. Does he do that? That's going to be the interesting thing about Michael King, because he's the guy who, again, if healthy, he is the ace of the staff. And I'm not sure. I don't think anybody's going to argue against that.
Yeah. No, it's a great point, and super interesting coming off the season that he had. I think he's probably shown enough to make a decent amount. You know, certainly probably not at the level that he was a year ago if he had entered free agency. But the 15 million might be close enough to me, and I think he likes being here. And it is 1 year. And like you said, you have the big season, you can cash in after that. And it also gives you time to, you know, we've seen AJ get creative with contracts, kind of renegotiate, find something that might work with both sides. You got Eric Hosmer's money coming off. You got potentially Dylan Cease and Robert Suarez and Luis Arraez. So there's, you know, some money that could be available. And then you're looking at a rotation that isn't having to rely on a JP Sears. You know, you've got Pivetta back. You give Joe Musgrove some time to get right. Who knows? I mean, you got any feelings on what Yu Darvish is going to do? You know, there's these like retirement rumblings. You know, he's still got some money he can make. There's just been so many health issues now going for a number of years. It feels like 2022 was the last time we just had like a healthy, normal Yu Darvish. So what happens there? But yeah, you know, obviously Pivetta, Randy Vasquez, hopefully Joe at some point, maybe you. Man, if you get Michael King, you know, rotation, just
Mason
like
Miller.
And maybe Mason Miller, you know, maybe Mason Miller.
I could see it. Legitimately, I could see it.
I could see it. Yeah,
because I mean, that was the one good thing about that wild card series was the ability to see Mason Miller do what he did, because I never seen anything like it. I mean, seriously, never seen anything like it. It was ridiculous. And I'm telling you, man, remember, he came up his rookie year, 2023, early in the year, and started. And I think he took a no-hitter like into the 7th inning and like a second or third career start. The stuff is insane. Now he had, you know, a little arm issue. A's put him on the shelf. He rested, came back. And when he came back, they're like, we can't leave 103 sitting on the sidelines. Let's make him a closer so we can at least enjoy this somehow with some butts in the seats. So they made him a closer, and that's kind of what he then made his mark with. Like, all right, just keep doing that. But he can. So he was a starter all through high school, all through college. He's a guy who can handle multiple innings. And remember, I know a lot of guys, these big dudes, they throw hard, they blow out their arms. Okay, this guy, stand next to Mason Miller, okay? Stand next to Mason Miller with his shirt off. He's a big dude. He's 6'4", 235, and he's put together. It's like Paul Skeens. Like Paul Skeens is never going to have arm trouble because he's just so darn big. He just throws that hard. That's Mason Miller. I am not nearly as concerned about him blowing out his arm as many people are, because when you go into a starter's role, guess what? You're not throwing 103, 104 because you know you're not only throwing 25 pitches that day. You're dialing back. You're only reaching up for that when you need it. Because if you're sitting at 99 with that slider, guess what? You're still pretty damn good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that is one of the probably more interesting questions, storylines this offseason, is if we hear whispers of that. And then there's the ripple effect of what does that do for a bullpen if you lose Robert Suarez? Have you seen enough from Adrian Morejon to feel comfortable like, hey, you're our lockdown guy there in the ninth? It's been nice being able to use Adrian kind of wherever is necessary, and he is, for the most part, come through for you. So let's see, from Chris. Chris with a question. What do you think Mason's top velocity will be as a starter? Will he need to add another pitch aside from fastball and slider? I would think, and he's got to show me, what was it? I feel like we've seen
They'll show me changeup.
Yeah, okay, that's right.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, just a little like that little thing. It's a very good question, Chris.
2.3%. 22 change-ups this season.
They float in there about 90, by the way. a change up at 90, which is stupid. Chris, very good question. I would say, like I said, he probably would sit around, and by baseball parlance, sitting is like, this is what your average fastball is. He probably sit around 98 would be my guess. And then when he has to reach back for a put away pitch 6, 7 times a game, he'd run it up to 103. So he'd be throwing a lot of, like, basically what Skeens his rookie year was throwing 100 a lot. And he dialed back down to like 99, 98, 99 this year, played off his off speed more, and then reached back for the real hard stuff when he needed to, 6, 7, 8, 9 times a game. I think that's what Mason Miller would do. As for would he have to add another pitch? When you have two weapons like this, again, when Dylan Cease was only throwing fastball, slider, and then that little Bugs Bunny eephus changeup every now and again, he was throwing no hitters. He was the best version of himself. When he tried to add too much stuff, that's when he got into trouble. So if you've got a fastball like that and a slider like that are two plus elite pitches, like I said, I liken it to a magician. A magician only does 2 tricks. One is teleportation and one is time travel. Those are 2 pretty freaking good tricks. So there's no reason to say, hey, pick a card when you can just go to, take yourself to another spot on the stage by snapping your fingers. That'll be much more interesting than do I have the king of spades? So when you got 2 really, really good tricks, there's no reason to dabble with a whole bunch of other stuff.
Yeah. Really interesting. I'm up for seeing it. There's part of me that loves seeing him dot 104.5 or whatever it was, like 104.3. That was kind of cool. But they could use starters with some longevity in front of them, and here's a guy young in his career under team control for a while. If he can successfully make that transition, and they've done it with King, they've done it with Seth Lugo, among others, he's in the right group of people to kind of usher him through that process.
Yeah. And I mean, even to Nelson Lamet, straight fastball slider. 2020, when he was healthy, he was top 5 Cy Young ballot. He was, again, that was just truncated 60-game season, but it shows that guys can be really successful if they have 2 really, really good offerings.
Yeah. Quick thought from Chip Rocks, just to button up the Luis Arraez topic. Arraez is a good person. Love Arraez as a person, even as a hitter, but I definitely don't want him back because it's the only way to get around Mike Schildt's stubbornness and keeping him in the second hole. I think there's a lot of people that kind of feel that concern. Anything else?
Take away the crutch from him.
Anything else last couple minutes that you want to get off your chest here?
Man, I will say this. Every single one of the nicest people on the planet works as an usher at Wrigley Field. They are, I would say, and I know people, Padres fans, are going to get mad at me for this, but as much as I adore Petco Park, and it is the best ballpark in baseball, and especially in a playoff atmosphere, and I can't wait for it to get back there, Wrigley Field, every baseball fan should make a pilgrimage to Wrigley Field, because there truly is absolutely nothing like it. and to be able to see a playoff series there, because remember the Cubs, that doesn't happen very often. The Cubs have not been good very often. So to be able to see a playoff series there was truly like an incredibly special moment and occasion to be able to do that. So all the people at Wrigley Field, I'm sure all of them are listening right now, but could not have been cooler, could not have been nicer, made everything totally awesome for us yahoos from the West Coast coming in there and just helpful, polite, kind, nice, awesome, just absolutely awesome people there. So congratulations and thank you to the folks at Wrigley Field. There you go, Chris. I agree. I met the nicest people at Wrigley. Concessions manager hooked up with an Italian beef as a welcome to Chicago. See, that's the kind of stuff. That's the kind of stuff they do. Yeah, exactly. It was like trying to find out how to get around to the press box when the lady's like, oh, well, you're not supposed to come through here, but come on, I'll take you through. Just act like you belong. Just good, totally awesome people. And by the way, just walking in and looking up and seeing the scoreboard and seeing the manual stuff and seeing the ivy on the wall. It's just that and Fenway, man. That and Fenway Park. Fenway for different reasons because the people there are jerks, but the stadium is incredible. People find a way, if you love baseball, find a way to get to Wrigley Field because you will not regret it.
I got to do that. We didn't get to Lan Hong Soo, so my apologies for all the diehards out there that were looking forward to like a good 10-minute breakdown on the 18-year-old pitcher from Taiwan.
Well, again, I mean, hey, he turned down the Chinese Professional Baseball League to go into their draft to sign with a major league team. So he's betting on himself. And I like kids who bet on themselves. And they've already got 6 years before they have to leave them unprotected in the Rule 5 draft. So you know what? I have not. I will admit I've been doing this basketball stuff. I haven't looked at his repertoire or his stuff yet. But
it's fine. He's going to be traded at the deadline in 2028. It's fine. You don't need to.
But then we got to be able to talk about like why they traded him and why he's become a top prospect. And we didn't even get into the trade Tatis stuff either.
That's true. Well, it sounds like a tease for next week's episode, and I think we'll hear from AJ Preller between now and then. So I'm sure we'll have some.
Have they scheduled that yet?
They have not scheduled that yet. My understanding is it is coming. So hopefully we'll hear from AJ. Whatever.
The Red Sox guys Alex Cora and whoever's the GM there now, they keep changing them. Like Craig Breslow, they were there the day after the season ended. Like, what are we waiting for here, people?
Also haven't heard from John Seidler, and he took over as chairman in March. So,
Oh, well, they did. It was, John GPT, but still, they sent something.
I mean, like Yahoo's like you and I holding microphones in front of him at Petco Park and him answering questions he hasn't been prepped on. We haven't had one of those, and he took over in March. And that
spring training.
Seems a little bit strange.
He talked one time in spring training. By the way, after all the,
I don't think he did in
after all
training.
The local folks went. I'll remember we didn't get to do a chance to talk to him because all the TV stations in town all go out there for like 2 or 3 days, and after all of them at the beginning of spring training, after everyone leaves, after everyone left, they ran John out there for like 5 minutes. I know. Thing is, he's very forgettable. We're not talking about a dynamic personality here.
Seems like we should hear from him again. But we will likely discuss what AJ Preller says, hopefully next week. Other roster questions, next week's edition of On Friar. Appreciate you being with us. Good catching up with you again, as always, Derek, and we will see you all next time.